This looks like something that has a lot of potential, so let's hope it's good.
Nightingale is an open-world survival crafting game that's taking the usual format we've become so used to, and it's completely turning it up on its head with a unique take on the genre. And today, I'm going to talk about why Nightingale is a game worth keeping an eye on. Now, with all that bollocks out of the way,
The aesthetics by itself honestly looks kinda good, doesn't it?
let's begin, shall we? Okay, so Nightingale pretty much ticks all the boxes you could want from a traditional survival game. So if you're already a fan of the format or you enjoyed my previous survival videos, you can be sure we'll be playing it over at twitch.tv/Narcoverse. However, I mentioned Nightingale is doing something very different and unique. But before I...
Oh, the water physics aren't that bad. Look at these waves. Commendable, commendable. You know, static water is so past 20 years ago. I want something frisk, okay? It's time that we actually embrace the quality of graphics, and the better they are, hey, the happier you should be.
talk about that, it's important to understand the core mechanics of the game. Over the last few months, Inflection Games have put out a few updates, moving dates around and keeping the community informed with what's going on.
I have seen this game, I think, but I have definitely heard about it.
Originally, Nightingale was set to release on the 22nd. However, to give the team much more time to prepare for the weekend slam, they decided to pull it forward to Tuesday, and this already shows that they're switched on enough to plan ahead, which is more than can be said for 99% of releases these days. Their updates have been fairly mild, only really giving small teasers as to what's to come, but that all changed a couple of days ago when Inflection Games, a dev team,
Okay, wow, that changed really fast. Okay, wow. Imagine a game where you can not only slap things onto a grid in a cross shape, but also in a flipped cross shape. I don't know what is this supposed to be. An X shape. Man, that is the future I want, okay? Such big steps.
Comprised of ex-BioWare devs, released a super interesting gameplay overview of what to expect from the game's current state and what will be
an umbrella. Okay, that's a lot of expectancies.
Present in the future. Obviously, Nightingale is releasing in early access, but that only serves as a benefit in the current year, as pretty much all the leading survival games also started in early access, some even remaining in that state today, which leads me onto Nightingale's early access core mechanics. As teased in the overview, Nightingale features all the traditional mechanics you could want from a survival game, gathering resources, building a base.
Well, so far at least, you know, the teasers are pretty interesting.
Progressing your characters through a crafting system that allows you to take on bosses out in the open world. And it's...
Bro, this is some Hogwarts tier stuff right here, boys. Wow, look at this.
This crafting system where Nightingale begins to deviate from the usual format. The progression and design here reflects more of an old-school MMO rather than a traditional survival game, allowing you to craft unique pieces of gear that change depending on the materials you've used. This allows you to build yourselves in ways that complement playstyles like ranged or melee. There is no doubt endless opportunities for meaningful customization here, but this is only the beginning. You see, from what they described, the gear you craft can also be enchanted, and these enchantments serve as the primary way to customize your playstyle. Enchantments are broken into two categories. Obviously the enchantments, but also infusions. Infusions are passive effects that you apply to your gear that increase...
Oh, that looks pretty good. Look at this. Not bad, not bad.
Passive effects that you
If this is early access, this is not you know, that bad, honestly.
apply to your gear that increase your efficiency in various aspects of the game. You can think of these like systems from other games where you enchant your gear and it gives you like 15% increase to chopping wood or whatever. Pretty basic, but pretty essential. But when it starts to get interesting is when we talk about enchantments. Enchantments buff your weapons with special powers and give you powerful spells. The examples they gave allow your attacks to explode in an area effect, allow you to regenerate resources.
Ah, the attacks are pretty decent. Look at this. Yeah, this is pretty okay.
Instantly create an area denial with a bramble wall, and of course
I love the okay. So this is a classic failure of design. Oh, we're gonna give players the ability to create a bramble wall. It does nothing but delay your opponents and is unpassable terrain. Why not just use a damaging spell instead? Why? You're gonna have to kill them at some point anyway. So how does it make sense to just, delay them a little bit? How about just damaging them instead? Seems kind of smarter, doesn't it?
Of course, the highly popular self-healing spell. I'm sure this is just the tip of the iceberg, so I'm excited to see what kind of wacky spells will be available in this Fae-themed world. Obviously, the systems seem to be very involved, but these aspects of
Fae-themed or elephant mixed with dinosaur-themed game? I'm kind of confused currently, honestly. Tell me which one is it?
all been done in other survival games, so what makes Nightingale so unique then? Well, it starts with that Fae-themed world. For you see...
Okay, to be honest, I don't care if this game's unique, or if this game is a literal copy of Palworld. As long as it's good, baby. That's all that I care about, okay? I don't care if this is original, did they steal the concept from someone, or was this a fever dream? I don't care. Just make it good, and we're gonna see where we can go from there. Very simple.
Nightingale's world is generated in a way no other game has attempted before, and it starts with realm cards. These cards are broken into 3 categories: biome, major, and minor. They explained currently there are 3 biome cards in the form of forest, desert, and swamp, and these basically determine the map's layout. Now, I'm not sure if this game is randomly generated, nor will I go look this up, because I like to go into my games blind.
This game needs to be randomly generated. Essentially, to a degree at least, because there's no other way this is going to be interesting.
And knowing if the biomes are procedurally generated or not kind of ruins the magic for me. However, there's more to this than just the biome. You can also apply these major and minor cards to your current realm, and this applies game-changing effects that either increase difficulty, change the resources, and or buff your character in various ways. I am super excited to see how this changes the whole dynamic of playing a survival game. Is every change, every adventure, and every new card discovered going to create whole new and interesting ways to explore, progress, and can you cater your experience to your own style of play? The whole system sounds great and will definitely breathe a lot of innovation into this beloved genre, hopefully allowing Nightingale to stand out so close to a game like Palworld, which took the internet by storm recently. There are obviously a few more layers to the game, like its multiplayer settings, MMO.
I mean, it looks interesting. This is definitely something that people are gonna try with a lot of want. People are gonna be excited for something like this, right? But I can't tell if this is good or bad. There are a couple of things that look kind of like bad, janky, sus, but there's also stuff that looks neat, and you actually need to play it and test it. So yeah, this could be an absolute hit, maybe, or maybe this is gonna completely just fall through the ceiling or whatever, and it's gonna absolutely self-destroy itself. Who knows? But I mean, there is potential in something like this. Definitely looks kind of neat.
Player hub and NPC companions, but these kind of things I would rather just let you discover on your own, and as you've watched up to this point, the game has probably piqued your interest. Now, as Inflection games are far more indie than their BioWare origins, it's likely that this game is going to feature some jank and lack of polish. This is fine as it's an early access, however, gameplay is generally the dictator for all...
I mean, true, gameplay is the dictator for almost everything and anything, right? But at the same time, yeah, bugs are fine as long as you fix them in a reasonable pace. Bugs aren't fine if they're there forever.
Game's success. And this is probably my main worry for Nightingale. The gameplay, I will admit, does look fairly clunky all throughout the trailers, including the latest gameplay trailer, and I suspect if anything is going to hold it back, it's this. The moment-to-moment gameplay is always...
Yeah, that did not look that great, though, the shooting here. I can't even tell if he's actually hitting.
All throughout the trailers, including the latest gameplay trailer.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And I suspect if anything is going to hold it back, it's this. The moment-to-moment gameplay is always going to leave a far more lasting impression than any other feature in the game. But hopefully, my worries are unwarranted. In addition to this,
Yeah, this part looks kind of okay.
is featuring a gear score system, which I am...
Yeah, we can already tell that by the numbers on these items here.
definitely not a fan of. I feel like gear...
Yeah, that's also true.
Score creates a much more linear and shallow gameplay experience where your progression is determined by a binary number, rather than the skill or knowledge the player has learned about the enemies and the game mechanics. This is simply an opinion though, and there is always that opportunity for a game to change my mind if it's implemented well. And this leads me...
Kinda sus, because we you know, you see all of this. Rain resistance, heat resistance, cold, blight, blah blah blah. Blocking efficiency, stamina efficiency, strength, magic power, crit damage, melee. These are very basic stats, right? These are kind of boring stats, also not mentioned.
If it's implemented well. And this leads me onto my final worry for the game. In fact...
And by the way, I don't know about you, but when we're talking about a item system like this, you know, with stats like this, I honestly like it better when you just farm the new tier of items. You know, you finish your tier 1 set, then you start doing things and you acquire the materials to craft the tier 1 crafting items. Then you acquire, you know, the new crafting tier items and actually start crafting your items there, and then you do bosses. I like that kind of progression. This, where everything's just a number that, you know, is the equivalent of more damage on Tuesdays because reasons, you know, Diablo 4 style. I'm not a fan of this. Like, for example, look at here. Durability 11%. I don't know what that means, but that should not even be a stat to begin with, okay? I kind of like the tried and true tier levels of doing things. Again, I think it's really good that you farm materials, create tier 1 gathering items, then you go gather the items wherever it is, and then you start making your tier 1 gear. You finish making your tier 1 gear, and then you kind of finish it off by killing the tier 1 boss or something like that. And then you do the same, then you kill the boss, you craft the tier 5 items because you killed the bosses, and then you can progress to tier 2 where you repeat the cycle all over again. And maybe on tier 3 you have an unlock of accessories or something like that. I like the tried and tested ways of doing things like that, because systems like that are pretty good. Now, sure, yeah, you run out of tiers at some point, but, you know, I mean, you can easily, if people are running out of tiers, you can easily add some kind of ridiculously hard to farm challenge mode things that, you know, are meant to get something that's only 5% better than the highest tier. But, you know, you can do that a lot, so, you know, and then you're like 50% stronger than the highest tier or something like that. You know, it gives a lot more freedom. This is just a ridiculous and stupid hunt for, you know, stats that you probably don't honestly care about. It is what it is.
Change my mind if it's implemented well. And this leads me onto my final worry for the game. In fact, it's not even a worry. It's just, well, it's more of a nitpick. As Nightingale is developed on Unreal Engine 5, it risks falling into that trap of terrible spell effects, and that's most certainly something I've noticed in the trailers. The particles are so recognizably Unreal Engine that it kind of breaks my immersion for this amazing looking fantasy world. Huge white blinding beams and explosions with particles floating around. It's all so generic, and it totally doesn't have to be.
I think that's true. If you have seen the asset store for Unreal 5, you know what he's talking about. Yeah, it's like stuff like this completely so Unreal 5.
I'm hoping this is just the game being in early access, but I definitely feel like the spells and effects that are represented are the exact opposite of what I'd think is a Fey world. Fairy magic is supposed to be subtle, wispy, and in some cases
Is it supposed to be like that? I have no idea what the word Fey magic is actually supposed to even entail.
almost sinister, so hopefully we'll see improvements throughout the development process, as they did tease the
That also doesn't look like a Fey. That looks like an ugly giant or something.
3 biomes planned are only the beginning. Overall, if you're a fan of survivals, then Nightingale is certainly a game to keep.
Yeah, it looks janky, but I mean, it looks like it has potential, doesn't it? Now, is it currently amazing? Yeah, I'm gonna put my money on no. But this is definitely something that could be made so much more greater with a couple of good updates. So, we're just gonna have to see and wait how this one turns out. Anyway, that was our boy Narc. And this was Quizzer saying thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.